Welcome to Lead Poison.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, people and parasites alike. This is another episode of the Lead Poison podcast, brought to you by youcanpaint.com.au. Please head to youcanpaint.com.au for issue 1 of their how-to series, How to Paint Your House and Save Thousands. My name is Jack, your host, and this evening on the show we are joined by a man who is affectionately known as Ironfist Doug. Now, if you don't recognise that name, Ironfist Doug was the creator, along with 2 of his friends, of the infamous and often mysterious Cave Clan. The Cave Clan began exploring drains in Melbourne in the 1980s and has since gone on to not only explore across Australia, but many countries worldwide. These days, urban exploration, or urbex, is a popular hobby, with hundreds, if not thousands, of explorers venturing into spaces forgotten altogether by society. Way back when, in the suburbs of Melbourne, it was a way to experience solitude and to explore the landscape in a unique way, not dictated by government bodies or social norms. What Doug began all those years ago has evolved into nothing short of an incredible underground culture, and one that in its essence is not dissimilar to the culture of graffiti. I have to say that after interviewing Doug, I realised I was feeling the effects of what quickly turned into heat stroke. That was after stupidly working in the sun all day and not drinking enough water. Rookie mistake. The reason I'm saying this is because I was disappointed with my interviewing skills this evening. Regardless, I'm not one to make excuses. I have the utmost respect for Doug and his efforts over many years in continuing a community that could have at many points fizzled into an underground folklore. If you'd like to learn more about the Cave Clan, please visit their website at caveclan.org and be sure to check out the documentary Cave Clan Underground Artists on ABC iView or YouTube. Anyways, enough from me. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. Please welcome Ironfist Doug. That there's a lot of misconceptions about the Cave Clan when you speak about it with people?
Well, probably one of the tricky things is you probably see a lot of my stuff out there, and I'm sort of like, well, I kind of started the Cave Clan to be sort of a fun thing, you know, Basically, I was trying to get some new mates because all my current mates at the time when I was like 15, 16, 17 all started getting in trouble, and I started getting into trouble with the cops and that. And so what I started is different to what it is today. But what it is today, you don't hear so much about. It's probably more like what you thought it was is actually probably how it is to some extent. And the Cave Clan that I put out there is the Cave Clan that I, spent the first 30, 35 years with. The Cave Clan that a lot of people, So we were a lot more, have a beer, wander through a tunnel sort of thing. Whereas nowadays they still do that occasionally, but they're much more. I guess you'd say they're much more professional than we were. Although I'm not really sure, until you tell me, I don't really know what exactly you're referring to. But I think I'm just sort of guessing that.
I just thought I probably first heard about the Cave Clan when I was probably maybe 15, 16, sort of just getting into graffiti, and it's a whole world in graffiti, as you'd probably know, of sort of mysterious characters and things like that. And I remember we were fishing around. There's a power station in Rozelle, big giant in just off the city in Sydney, and it was just one of those things. Oh, we can get in there, and who's been in there? And it's Cave Clan I think has been in there, and I think I found the website around that time as well, and it was just so mysterious to me, and I guess you just jump to multiple conclusions when you find a group as sort of strange as the Cave Clan. So. But I guess you're right. I mean, these days it'd be a lot different to how it was back when you started the group.
Yeah, and I just realised you're in Sydney, and the Sydney clan were, that they were always a bit more serious than Melbourne, and over time they sort of lightened up a bit, and they started doing silly things like us. But yeah, no, the image that people have goes from a bunch of kids pretending to be Ninja Turtles to people that infiltrate the infrastructure and can get into anywhere, and they're under your house, and it goes from one extreme to the other. We're sort of somewhere in between. Like when I say we, like I'll often refer to Cave Clan as it was and Cave Clan as it is now, and yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I can imagine that a lot has changed since back then. Can you tell me sort of about the beginning of Cave Clan and what led you to sort of start the little group? I imagine it was a little bit of curiosity, probably a lot of boredom. How did you go from just, being at school to going and deciding to venture into drains and things like that?
Well, I guess I don't think I was bored because I mean I was sort of that I don't know, cliche Aussie kid from the 70s and the 80s where I'd played footy in the winter and played cricket in the summer, and I did all that sort of stuff. But I started because I was brought up in an area called Fairfield, and the surrounding areas the borders were pretty much like two creeks and a river, and so I spent a lot of time riding my pushy around these creeks and the main river in Melbourne, the Yarra. And I used to see these tunnels when I was, not even a teenager, when I was really young. And I went in a couple of local ones, sort of a little bit. And when it got dark, I ran out screaming, sort of thing. But so I sort of knew they were around, and I sort of like, I don't know, a few of my friends, as we started getting the teens, a few of my friends started, they'd get into trouble. We were starting to be a bit more dodgier with stuff, and getting hassled by the police and things like that. So eventually I thought, oh shit, I'm going to end up in some serious shit. So I basically, and I always loved the idea of tunnels and mines and caves and all that sort of thing. So I basically went and visited probably the geekiest, nerdiest kid in my school. I just left school, actually. I left school when I was 16, and that was Woody, who is one of the co-founders. And he was the kid that was sitting up the front of the class listening to what the teacher said, and I was the kid at the back of the class being the dickhead. And anyway, he, and I said, oh, you want to go do Northcote Tech Darkies, which is basically the drain that went under our school, Northcote Tech. And he said, yeah, that'd be cool. And so I sort of went out the front of his house, and then when he came out, he had his brother with him, who was Sloth. And he was, and I'd never really met him. I think I'd seen him walk past once or twice, but he was called Sloth because he's very sloth-like. He's it's not like when you get a guy with red hair and they used to call him Bluey.
It was a pretty accurate name, was it?
Yeah, no, Sloth. And anyway, he, so he goes, oh, this is my brother Sloth, and we went and did this crappy little drain, and we hadn't made up a name or anything, but and that's pretty much how it started. I did it to sort of, like one of my mates. My name's Michael, and there was another Michael that I was mates with, and he was sort of going the wrong direction, and I don't know, like a couple of years later, I saw another mutual friend, and he was talking to me about who have you seen in the last couple of years from school, and he goes, oh, I was in a video arcade, and Michael came up to me and pulled a knife on me and robbed me. I said, oh, okay, yeah. So I'm glad I went a different way. And then like 2 years later, I saw someone else And I said, oh yeah, the same thing, you know. Who you seen anyone around from school days and that? And they go, oh yeah, oh Michael OD'd, he's dead, you know, like so. So you know, although that's the you know the worst case scenario, but most of the other guys ended up fine. But yeah, so I sort of yeah, I guess that's what I was avoiding. Whereas Woody and Sloth were, you know, like to this day they're both you know really nice guys and you know not like a Michael that robbed someone in a video arcade and then OD'd. Yeah, the exact opposite. I've met like yeah, I've met so many. God, I've met some yeah, pretty cool people over the years.
I guess around that age, how what first of all, what year sort of was that first little venture with Sloth and Woody?
That was late. Oh no, probably yeah, like the summer of 85, 86. We started doing stuff. And you know, obviously we didn't think it was going to be what it became, but I was pretty obsessed, pretty keen. I think Woody and Sloth just, you know, for their whole time in the Cave Clan, I think if I arranged something, you know, they'd just come along if they were available. I don't think they, I don't think they very often said, oh, you know, we want to go and look for a tunnel out here, or you know, it was normally me instigating it, or I'd go out looking for these tunnels, and then I'd go back and say, I found some more. Let's go and explore them. Yeah, so I was the one that was sort of obsessed with it, and you know, wanted it to be. You know, I think they were happy just the three of us exploring, but I was always trying to get you know new people to join, and every time someone joined, they'd tell us about about a tunnel we didn't know about. So I was pretty happy. You know, every time we got a new person, we got someone that liked doing what we did, but we also got their local knowledge, and
Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it?
yeah. So yeah, as a group got bigger, um, yeah, we just kept getting. So we had this huge database of information that, you know, before the internet was a thing. Like, you know, there's pretty much Cave Clan. Like, Cave Clan was probably there was no urbex scene in Australia. There wasn't much of an urbex scene in the world in the 80s, in the mid 80s.
I was gonna ask actually, you know, back then, was there any other groups exploring, even though there was no sort of urbex community, was there other groups that had previously explored those drains in Melbourne?
Well, they were all local kids, you know, like I don't know why these names stick in my head, but in the 80s there was three guys called Egg, Geck and Knob. And anyway, their names are stuck in my head, but they just explored a few drains, you know, all in the same area. I think that was a difference. You know, they were probably a lot of kids. You know, they might go into a drain to write, you know, Bon Scott Lives or ACDC or Black Sabbath or smoke a bong or whatever. But so they wouldn't, you know, they just go and hang out away from everyone. But yeah, I think we were the first ones that. Oh, there was the Drainiacs, which were around in the 40s and 50s in Melbourne, and they actually did a few. And there was a guy who we thought was an explorer. He used to use this black tar paint that lasts forever, and he'd just write Alf Sadlier and the date. And we didn't find out until we did something with with a paper down in Melbourne, and someone wrote to us who knew Alf Sadlier and filled us in that he used to build drains for Melbourne Water, for the authority down here that handles all the drains, or the MMBW as they were known back then. Anyway, he used to, just when they were about to put the last bit of drain in, he'd get his black tar paint and you know write his name and.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I don't think I don't think he realised that 50 or so years later there'd be a group of guys that basically worship him. You know, like everyone's got so much respect for. Doesn't matter who writes stuff in the drains. You know, someone will paint over it, but no one will paint over. No one paints over Alf Sadlier.
Wow, that's really interesting. That actually brings me to something that I did want to ask you. It might seem like a bit of a stupid question, but Speaking of drains specifically, why are they built and why are they there? And usually, when were they built? Are they all sort of from the same time period, or?
Not really. No. Like for example, there's a drain that we used to spend a lot of time in called, well, we just call it Northcote Golf Course drain, and the history of that is that what, and this happens with a lot of the drains, is that you might have, like back in the day, you might have had an abattoir or a tannery or something upstream, and they just throw all their shit into the river, creek, whatever it is, and it would all wash down to the towns, suburbs further down. And so this is one of the reasons it happens. So you get like the council of that area would they just put it underground. This is with this Northcote Golf Course one. They just put a section of it underground. They said it's out of sight. Now that'll just move down to the next town, next suburb, and they just keep. And so some of them got put underground in bits and pieces, and then and it just got to the stage where the councils were just putting these creeks underground just to get rid of the the pollutants and all that. Then they created God, you're probably going to ask me what year it was, but a long time ago they created the Melbourne Metropolitan Board of Works, and they took over the whole thing, and then they put lots and lots. I think it was around World War One, after World War One, actually probably World War Two. But anyway, they had this period where they just put heaps of, in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne, which is all the nice leafy streets and that, the people that are well-to-do, they just got all these like amazing big tunnels put under. Everything got put underground, and that's like the prime for Melbourne anyway. The eastern suburbs of Melbourne's got most of the best drains.
Yeah, right.
But when you were saying before, sorry, I'm jumping a bit here, but
no, it's fine. Go for it. Yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah, you were saying about other people doing it. I mentioned Alstad there and the Drainiacs, but there was also in Sydney the Sydney Uni Caving Group. I think it was one weekend a year they would explore some drains in Sydney. And they were doing that in the 70s, they were doing that before us. So there was them as well. But and then in Paris they had the cataphiles, and they have like massive communities, way before us. They they were having dinners and parties in the catacombs under Paris, decades before us. They were doing stuff down there.
To me, it's fascinating because it's obviously it's just like a whole world underneath another world that I guess the vast majority of people outside of sort of, obviously urban explorers, but even outside of other cultures have no idea it really exists. It's super cool. Tell me about sort of, back in the day or in the early days of the Cave Clan, how did you communicate before Instagram and the internet and things like that? How did people communicate, and how did you get new members?
We originally we'd so that drain that I mentioned before, Northcote Golf Course, just had this really cool section a few minutes up called the Pillars, and it was just all these tunnels met up, and they just had these pillars in the middle, sort of as extra support, and we'd sort of just hang. It was like our headquarters back when we were teenagers, and when we'd visit these other drains around Melbourne, and then I was going to say interstate, but at this stage it was just Melbourne, and we'd leave a message. We'd find a main spot. We'd go up a drain in the southern suburbs of Melbourne. We were from the north, the other side of Melbourne, and we'd just write a message saying, if you want to meet up with the Cave Clan, come to this drain. And we basically told them how to get there, catch this train to this station, walk up here, leave a message and arrange a time, and then come back again, and hopefully we'll see the message in the meantime. And we never really thought it'd work, but the funny thing is we got some really, most of the members we got that way are still, I'm still mates with, 30 odd years later. Because the guys who met that way, they were also pretty dedicated. And coincidentally, like that, there's no way they would have known that we were starting a group, but it was just at the same time they were also there was a couple groups of them, and they were starting up, exploring drains, and they were travelling more too. They were a bit like us. I'm not sure why they became Cave Clan. Probably because, as I said to you earlier, I was sort of quite obsessed with it.
From that day, or from those early years, has the group steadily grown, or has there been sort of periods of inactivity?
It's funny when now that social media is a thing, and when something pops up about Cave Clan and people are like, oh my God, I haven't heard of them in, or they're back. There was actually the main newspaper down here just a month or two ago did a Cave Clan are back because they saw these kids that were coming out of a manhole that weren't Cave Clan.
I saw that. Yeah, that's actually. I had that exact moment. I was like, "Oh my God, Cave Clan! I've got to get in touch with someone." That's what led me to you.
So, but I mean, it did go up and down a little bit, but not to the stage where it didn't exist or anything. Melbourne's, we've done stuff pretty much every week. There'd be someone in Cave Clan doing stuff. Or maybe not in the middle of winter, but Sydney's been, since it started in the early 90s, it's been pretty regular. It had a period when Predator, the founder, he died of cancer, and they sort of died off. I should choose better words. Quieting down for 12 months. They had a bit of a hassle at the same time. Like the guy who used to organise all the new inquiries, the newbies as they call them, he got arrested doing it. And anyway, so they dropped. But in other states like this, Adelaide and Perth and Hobart, other cities, the branches there, Canberra, for example, it's hardly got any members, if any. Well, they might have a few sleeper cells there, but with Melbourne, we're pretty regular. But we just stopped doing media stuff over periods, so that I think that's what people judge it by. Oh, I haven't heard from them. Like for example, after September 11 happened, we did nothing. We cut back our media appearances, and Sydney just banned it. Most states banned it. In Melbourne, look, I'd say if it wasn't for me, they probably would have banned it straight up. Whereas I kind of sort of chose more, like we do uni mags and community radio and stuff like that. We sort of steer clear of commercial networks and things like that.
And that sort of helped with the image. Is that what you're saying? And sort of took a bit of the heat off?
Well, that was the point. Whether it worked or not, like I think it worked. I mean, at one stage, Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne, and it wasn't September 11, but it was some other big. I actually can't remember what it was. It might have, yeah. Look, it could even have been that crazy Japanese cult that released the chemicals, the poison in the train tunnels.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
I can't. Yeah, it could have been that. It could have been, but yeah, we had the government authorities contact people from each of those, which were the main three branches: Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney. And they were quite polite, and they basically wanted to know how we were getting in, because even though we normally just talk about drains, Cave Clan, which I don't really want to talk too much about, but Cave Clan will basically explore anything underground, and so we were getting into places that we probably shouldn't. I mean, we weren't doing anything, but we were doing it just for exploring. And anyway, they were saying, how we were getting in, and do we know, do we ever see any dodgy people down there, and all that sort of stuff, and basically the answers of how were we getting in was we just walked in generally, which, like when they were talking about train tunnels, like City Loop in Melbourne and the tunnels in Sydney. And yeah, basically the answer was, oh, we just walk in. Yeah, so
they're thinking ninja your way in and suction cup down the walls.
Yeah, blueprints and
yeah.
Whereas in Melbourne, which in hindsight it sounds dumb, but like we had this little thing between I mean, you're not supposed to give away locations, but if you try and do this thing that I'm about to mention, you're pretty. Actually, I'll keep it a little bit vague. But there's 2 hospitals in Melbourne, and they've got steam tunnels that run between them. And we found a way in, and we met at a pub, and we thought, right, we'll meet at a pub at 8. We'll go in after dark, and it got to like about 10:30, and we were all pretty pissed. And we thought, oh, fuck it, let's go. So we climb into the steam tunnel. We get in we get our blueprints out, and our we abseil down. And no, we don't do that. We just lift the grill and climb in, and which is hard to do because we'd silly, we bought being silly, we bought takeaways with us, so we're all carrying. We're just so unprofessional, is my point. And anyway, we climb into these steam tunnels. And everyone's going, wow, this is cool. And we're in a boiler room. We start off in a boiler room, and there's more and more of us climbing in, and finally there's about 15 of us. And suddenly one of the guys with us just comes walking around a corner saying, go, 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 get out, get out, get out. And then behind him, an old security guard comes wandering around the corner. And so we all start going, and because we're in this boiler thing, we just open the windows and climb out. We don't go back in through the tunnel and through the grill, which would have taken us a lot longer. And it's like one of the major streets in Melbourne, but it's at night time. So anyway, we all get out, and we get across the road, and we're sort of laughing more than anything, thinking we all got away. And then someone goes, oh, they grabbed Crow and Green. And we're sort of sitting there, and because we'd been sitting in a pub for a few hours, we're like, oh, fuck it, let's go back and just get them. So we all start, and we all start running back towards the hospital, the boiler room, and thinking, yeah, we'll just go and grab them and like rip them out of the, come on. And that was, drunken logic. But as we were doing that, like a police divvy pulled up, and there was just all these security guards coming from other parts of the hospital, and we sort of went, oh, shit. But it turned out someone had dobbed us in, a guy that used to be in the group who was sort of asked to leave, but he had a list of all our upcoming events. So when I do the newsletter, Il Drano, I'd put in it what's coming up, and I had this on it. And because it was something more than just drains, this guy held a grudge, and he dobbed us in. And but what happened was the police was saying to Green and Crow, oh, we were expecting you. This is how we knew we'd been dobbed in. Was the cops go, oh, we were expecting you like 2 hours ago, because we said on the invite it said meet at the pub at 8 o'clock, and so the police had been, and they thought we weren't coming, so they left. But obviously the security guard, they were just sending someone down there every so often to have a look, and but that was shit for the 2 guys. They had to go to court and everything. But one of the other guys, who's a little headbanger guy called Bathory, and he's gone all the way through these steam tunnels, and he was drunk as in. He said like he had to stop because it's so hot and humid in them, like really hot and humid, like heaps worse than Darwin and all that. Like it's super humid, sweat just pisses off you, and he's like running through this tunnel. And every now and again they have these little vents, and he just stuck his face in the vent, and he vomited. And then he got back in the tunnel. He just kept going and going, and then he ended up at the other hospital, which was a children's hospital. And he'd come out in like a similar boiler room thing at the other end, and he just got out, and he was literally like there's a box of soft toys in the hallway, and he was walking down. He walked out of the boiler room and was walking down the thing, and then he heard footsteps. So he dived into this box of pink elephants and purple giraffes. And if you saw him, it's even funnier when you see him. He's a little bald headbanger guy, nicest guy ever, but wearing his Bathory shirt or whatever. He's into all that sort of stuff. That's why he called himself Bathory. And and then he said he just sort of inched his way to he heard these guys walk past, and they sounded like security guards. And then after they'd gone, he got out and then he got to another point and then ended up on the roof of the hospital. And in the end, he just went, I can't get out. So he just walked out through the front door, front reception, and got out. But it'd
be like Ocean's 11 or something.
Yeah, no, it was a crack up. I mean, I think I've written about it in Il Drano, and it's written in a way where I sort of write. Everyone writes their view of the night, and I sort of joined it together, and it's like
oh, cool.
Yeah, it's if you find it, it's a funny expo. It probably wouldn't look very inviting when you read it because there's no photos. It's just pages and pages of text. But
that's my type of magazine for sure.
Yeah, well, you've got it there somewhere, so
yeah, I'll dig through and have a look. There's certainly a few of them. What's the general attitude of police towards the group over the years? Is it sort of how do they come down? I imagine around, obviously, like you said, 2001 was pretty heavy, but aside from that, how do they feel about you guys?
Well, generally speaking, I mean, some cops are total pricks. Other ones haven't been in it long enough to be total pricks yet. But they're pretty good with us. Young cops sometimes when we had these quiet periods, as in we didn't do any media stuff. It almost like my argument was with other Cave Clan people that thought we shouldn't do any media stuff was I found when we were in the media, the police were like, "Oh, it's just Cave Clan."
Right.
But when we didn't do stuff for years, you'd get these young cops who'd be like, handcuffing you and all this sort of stuff. And you'd literally, it has literally happened where they'd go back to the station and the sergeant would go, "It's just Cave Clan. Let them go." That was really good. It was really good like that for. I think the same in Sydney. There's a Sydney guy called Silage, and I remember talking to him once, and he was just telling me all these stories about where police are like, they've got their hand on their gun, on their hip, ready to pull their gun, and then once they, it's just Cave Clan. We had a movie night in a drain, and there's heaps of people there, and one of the guys, who he wasn't really a Cave Clan guy, he was just from one of the graffiti crews, and he left and actually got stabbed at the local railway station, and the cops started searching the area looking for the person, and they saw some people going into the drain, and the cops followed us followed the people up the drain, and like you can imagine these police, like it was a huge drain, but they get up there and there's like 80 people with the movie projecting up on the wall.
Oh, fuck, they must have been blown away. What the fuck's going on here?
They didn't. Well, one of my mates, I'm still mates with him till this day. We didn't know that what I'm about to tell you. We didn't know he'd said this. So the cops were asking us these questions, and what my mate had said, unbeknown to anyone else, was the cops came up to him first and said, "What are you doing up here?" And he said, "Fucking goats." And
as you would.
And anyway, the cops come up to us and they're saying, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" We said, "Oh, we're just watching movies," which is weird enough.
Fucking oath, yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, "We don't care about the movies. Are you fucking goats?"
Oh, get fucked.
And I'm like,
"Where are the goats?"
Yeah. What's all this about? And you could hear him saying to other people, "What's this about goats?" So it's sort of become a thing for a while. Like, I think we put it on a Cave Clan sticker. We don't fuck goats. Like that. But so it was actually Cave Clan movies we were watching, not just a film. They took the back in the days of VHS. They took my master copies, and they didn't really know anything about Cave Clan. They were dumbfounded, and And then they said, if you want them back, come down to the Paran police station and get them. And he gave me a card, and I thought, I want to get them back because it was a master copy. And back in the day when you did things on tape, it was so much harder. Like using a copy, just every time you copy it, it deteriorates. So I wanted to get. So I actually went back to the police station, and I had to go back when the cop was on duty, and he brought the tapes out, and I said, and there was a few incriminating things on the tape throughout, just a few. Apart from the fact it was full of us trespassing, but I mean more incriminating than that. And anyway, I said to the cop, what'd you think? And he goes, we just started watching it. And then the sergeant came in and goes, you're watching a Cave Clan video for? What are you watching a Cave Clan video for?
Oh, get fucked. No way.
Yeah. And he goes, no, don't worry about them. They're harmless. They're not. Anyway, so the cop goes, yeah, we only watched the first 5 minutes. And then the sergeant said not to bother. So, so.
It is interesting because I guess I can see sort of both sides of it. Obviously, that they would have some attention on people going into areas where they aren't supposed to be. But the beauty of the culture, and I guess the beauty of the Cave Clan, is it's just a bunch of people that are essentially not doing anything wrong away from, the regular world. I can see how it's really enticing, and it's good to know that in a way they weren't too worried about you guys.
Yeah. And that's generally how it's been. There are times when they get a bit shitty with you, but usually it's just they don't know. And look, having said that, there are things that we call them travel light. Other people just call them stealth trips or expos, stealth or travel light. And, you're super, you wouldn't get pissed. And I mean, when we did the steam tunnels, we probably shouldn't have got so pissed. I don't think we intended to, but, like like with, there are certain things, that you want to be in. And, there's getting caught is a much more serious thing. So, so we do have different levels of, we're not always just sinking beers and
going walking.
Yeah, going into places that we shouldn't. But
now I want you to tell me about the movie nights. But before that, is there a gospel sort of within the clan? I mean, just sort of reading your magazines and having a look over different characters in the group. I can imagine there would be some sort of strange handbook with rules that the members would need to adhere to. Is that sort of just spoken, or is there an actual document that outlines what the group is and what you guys need to do, and maybe some rules to stop sort of negative aspects making their way into the group?
Yeah, so we got to almost to 20 years, and with very few rules. Like we basically tried to leave. Look, and most of the rules were aimed at places other than the drains, like the abandoned buildings and other infrastructure that we explored. And even with the drains, the rules were like, if you're going to do graff in there, try not to paint on bluestone and red brick, just paint on the concrete and things like that. And
why is that?
Just because the bluestone is 75 years old, looks beautiful, looks nice. You get these old bluestone arch or sandstone in some parts, and quite often they're just old bridges that have been put underground. So whereas if you've got like 2 kilometres of concrete tunnel leading up to this nice old section, so we just basically say, if you're going to tag on the concrete where it's just a tunnel built in the last 20 years or whatever, leave the old sections alone. And people did when it was smaller, people followed that, but now I think people pretty much just tag anywhere. So we had a few rules, and when it rains, no drains was the mantra, the one that we always were going on about. But with the other ones, it was basically leave places as you found them. Then we got a few dickheads in the group, and we weren't we weren't very good at getting rid of these dickheads. And and you get like where 6 people don't like them and 2 people like them, and so we'll let them. We'll just put up the other 6 can just put up with them, or whatever. And but by now, like, and the group was getting really big. There was in Melbourne, there was like over 100 members and 100 sort of fairly active members. Yeah, so we started a thing called the 20-year revamp, and we just made a code of ethics, which is still, if you go on the caveclan.org and you click on the contact link, and you read through that, it's got a link to the code of ethics, and it's just all common sense stuff. I mean, when we were trying to set it up, people were cracking it like, oh, we don't need, whatever. But it ended up like, after we had that code of ethics, the clan just really was really good for like another 10 or 15 years. It like really helped it get through a lot of, and it kept a lot of.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was a lot easier to there was a process for most of the things.
Yeah, true.
As in, and the main thing was getting rid of people. And like after that, I mean, we always had we kicked people out for various reasons, but one of the problems I found, or a few of us found, most of us found, was how can I say this in a nice way? Well, I guess people that are attracted to going in drains, a lot of them are sort of, I guess you'd almost say social misfits. There's a lot of sort of guys that would come across as sort of creepy. Anyway, they'd and as more and more females sort of got into the group, you started getting these guys who weren't used to being around females who would start. So that sort of make them feel uncomfortable, and especially from my point of view, who's this guy who's wants more and more people to join and wants to make it a social thing, and the last thing I want is and others, but speaking for myself, the last thing I want is anytime, because it was always a male dominated thing, but when females started getting into it, these creepy guys would start, every time we'd be at a party or something, they'd start sort of cracking onto them. And the girls sort of had this thing where when I say girl, but we always call them girls, clan girls, but when a new clan girl would join, they'd say, watch out for that guy, watch out for that guy. Yeah, they get a bit touchy or creepy, Anyway, eventually, once we had the code of ethics, a lot of those guys just got kicked out, and Sydney took a bit longer, but they eventually got rid of all those guys, and it's generally guys, but
yeah, I can imagine.
Which kind of sucks that you have to have a code of ethics, but it still did. It in the end, it was a big shit fight to get it done. I think it started off, it was like 40 conditions on it, and it got down to like 15 or something. I can't remember. I haven't looked at it for a while, but I think that's sort of all gone out the door now. Anyway, I don't know. I don't actually. I'm not involved with the part of the clan that organises stuff or that handles new inquiries, or I'm just I just chill out now and do stuff with the old guys. And we just had a thing on Saturday. We have an annual non-Christmas gathering, and
non-Christmas.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the day I used to work about half a dozen of us worked in a Christmas factory, and we just make Christmas shit all year.
You got sick of it.
Yeah. So by the time Christmas came around, we were like,
fucking over it.
Yeah. So we had the non-Christmas party.
Was there anything particular about females themselves that sort of brought a unique perspective to the group, you found?
Yeah. Look, I don't know. Maybe I saw it from my point of view. Maybe I just saw it as a stepping stone to, it's becoming more of a, what am I trying to say? Just something more than just a bunch of guys wandering through drains.
Yeah, for sure, totally.
Look, I never really, in all my years, I mean, I had a couple of flings, but I never really sort of look what was never in the clan. I know one of the things we would say when shit started happening, we'd put out a message saying Cave Clan is not a dating agency, and you know, and the female members that became members for a while, they started up a thing called the Clan Girls, which nowadays they don't use it anymore because you know they're not girls and all that sort of thing. But they started up a lot of the things made it more welcoming for females. So they were also saying, "Oh, we don't want guys cracking on everyone that every time a new female joins." Although that doesn't answer your question. No, they were just it was just good having you know a variety of people.
Yeah, totally.
And it was just another you know a different sort of person. I don't know. I guess sometimes for security guards and that, you know, they probably talk them their way out of things better than.
True. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, you know, like things like that.
Yeah.
But normally with security and that, unless you're doing something stupid, normally you can talk your way out of it.
Yeah, I guess it just makes sense. As you know, one thing I guess as any group gets bigger, there's always politics are going to come into it, and different personalities are going to clash. But you know, on the positive side, having, as you said, a variety of different people would always enhance the experience, I imagine.
Yeah, and when you mentioned politics, like I sort of had a thing. I'd hear a lot of the gossip, and you might have noticed in Il Drano, I quite often, when these things would happen where one group of people were saying this about another group of people in the group, you know, within the group, I'd sometimes just put it in the newsletter and say, oh, these people are pissed off with this, others are pissed off with that. What are we going to do? You know, and then they'd argue about it, and then, you know, like they'd get shitty with me. Oh, you're causing trouble. But then 2 months later, it was, you know, over. They weren't complaining about it anymore. You know, they'd sorted it out. And, you know, sometimes people would, you know, leave the group because of it. But, yeah, I was sort of always big on, you know, if it got to the stage where it was caught creating problems or, you know, and you get this shit where we'd have an expo, which is, you know, just going in tunnels or going exploring, and people would start saying, oh, is Jack going to be there? And you'd be like, oh, I don't know. Well, I'm not coming if, you know, he's going to, you know, like you start getting all that sort of crap happening. You know, which still happens, but yeah, I just found it was just easy. And plus I didn't have the time and no one had the time to sort of sort out these problems. So I just found it easier just to throw everyone in the middle, which is, you know, not HR 101.
Yeah, well, I guess exploring drains doesn't really have a HR department, does it?
No. Although I think they might have nowadays. Just about.
Yeah, true. Yeah, they might do.
It's this is anyone. If anyone from the current Cave Clan listens to what I'm about to say, they'll think it's an insult. But I don't really mean it as an insult. But if I came along, like a young me came along and went to join contacted the Cave Clan today, there's no way I'd join. Like I wouldn't. It's so different to what like it's not. It'd be like me joining a caving club.
Yeah, that's interesting because I mean, you and Woody and Sloth started it, so it's strange to see how it evolved to something so different to what I imagine you ever thought it would be.
Well, you know, look, it was. I don't. Even though I say I'm obsessed with it, I don't think I was a control freak with it. I actually tried to encourage people to help with things, and we always voted on things. I was really big into, like, people used to get the shits with me. Oh, we're not voting on something. Can't you just do it? Which is where the term iron fist came through. They'd be just like, can't you just iron fist it through?
Is that where you got your name, is it?
Yeah. Well, it was an insult at first, but I just owned it. I rocked up to a thing one night and they had Iron Fist shirts on to give me shit. And but someone had told me they were doing it. I managed to get one, so I had one. I took my shirt off and I had an Iron Fist shirt, one of their shirts underneath. So
beautiful. But, no better way to deal with criticism than to take it on, eh?
Yeah. You know, and look, you know, I can admit, you know, things that I did wrong, and I'm not, you know, that's one of the first things I learned was how to say, yeah, I was wrong for doing things. But most of the time it worked. It wasn't perfect, but most of the time iron fisting it, or just But yeah, generally we'd vote on everything. It was all very, but not certain things. We just like, nah. If someone did something like physically assaulted someone,
Yeah. That's sort of arbitrary, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. I mean, and like like we're often we're linked. Like there's lots of graffitiists in the cave clan, or there were a lot of graffitiists in the cave clan. And it's funny, like a lot of the violence that has happened, like when we've had people get drunk and fight. Um, I hope Awesome from All City listens to this, because he I'm still in touch with him. I mean this lightheartedly, but yeah, God, he made a mess of a few few cave clan guys one night. He wasn't welcome back for a while, but that was 20 odd years ago, and yeah, I'm still in touch with him.
I guess
But
back in the early days, well, back in the 90s and early 2000s, and before that as well, the world of graffiti it's pretty cutthroat, which I'm sure you're aware of. So
yeah. Oh yeah, look, look, I don't know what it's like nowadays, but I know yeah, and things used to just be, yeah. Well, just in the cave clan, things changed a lot in that aspect too. As far as like I've had a few fisticuffs with a few people over the years, and like, but my last 25 years, sort of nothing. Not even a bite. But it was all to do with alcohol. Like I can't remember. I think every time, the only time I ever did something, which I wouldn't have done in a whatever if I wasn't so pissed off. But yeah, there's one guy. We were in this underground. It was actually a sewage purification tank.
beautiful.
Yeah, it was huge. It's people love it. People always ask them where it is, but it's just this massive thing. Anyway, we were inside, down in the middle of it. If you picture like a washing machine, we were sort of in the agitator in the middle, and we were right down the bottom. And halfway up this agitator, there was a grill, and we said to a guy up there, "I'll move the grill." And he went. We said, "Take a photo of us," and he goes, "Oh, the grill's in the way. I can't see you through the." Anyway, so we said, "Lift the grill off if you can," and he started to lift it off, and I was like, and this guy's a bit egotistical. Like he'd do anything, to try. Like he wasn't. He wouldn't say no, I can't do it. So anyway, he started lifting it up, and I just said, like, because we were standing. This grill was huge. Like it would kill you if it hit you in the head. And he started lifting it up, and he got it up and it slipped out of his hand. Luckily, it flipped. It hit the edge the thing that it was sitting in, and it flipped. So we heard it, and I just sort of pushed. The three guys beside me, we just all pushed out of the way, so there was a little side tunnel leading into the area we were standing, and it hit me in the ribs, it grazed me in the ribs, and it was just pandemonium. There was this loud bang, and everyone was throughout. There was like 20 people in this thing, all in different areas, and everyone's like, "What's going on?" And I was climbing. I had to climb up these ladders to get out, and I was like holding my ribs. I got out, and we were walking back to the cars, and I was just saying to this guy, "You're a fucking idiot," And he was walking behind me, and he wasn't saying anything, and I was just cursing him. Like I was just like,
Oh, he almost killed you.
yeah. I was like, well, if it, there was three or four of us standing under, and I was like, and he was just being quiet, which is probably a good idea, and I was just like, you couldn't just fucking say you couldn't do it, Anyway. Then he goes, all right, and he was just behind me, and I just threw, without even looking, I just threw my arm back and just hit him with the back of my fist in the face, and and he just went down on the ground, and I just kept walking. I don't mean to make it sound like some hero thing in a movie, but I just didn't break stride. I just kept walking. I was so pissed off. But
I can imagine.
Yeah, a few things like that happened, but that was the one time where it wasn't an alcohol thing. And when I say a few, I mean a few, like a couple other times. But
yeah,
it's just not. It's just so now it's so and it's a good thing. That's when I was saying I'm not insulting them. I was saying I wouldn't join a group because I was looking for a real. It's just totally different people. Nothing like. I guess we're a bit more like sort of bogans, to some extent. I mean, bogan dorks probably, but I mean, like we weren't. None of us were in the cars. None of the like me, Woody and stuff. None of us smoked. Not that sort of. We weren't at rev heads or. But we were pretty nerdy. Well, I was probably less nerdy than them, but what we were doing was a nerdy thing. We were embarrassed. We never told anyone what we were doing for years and years. Like
Really?
our family. No, we never told anyone. We always saw it as something little kids do, going in drains. But which was another good thing about when females started doing it. You asked, it made you feel a bit more, and even people in general. When there was 20 and then 30 and then 40 and then 100 people doing it, it made you feel a bit more validated, like you weren't doing something that was
just a waste of time.
Yeah, or childish. Well, and I don't have a problem being childish. If you've seen some of my videos, you probably.
Yeah, I have. I wanted to ask how many people were at the height of the Cave Clan? How many members would you assume that were involved?
Not ridiculous numbers, and I think I used to answer it in a way of like talking about across Australia. I mean, there's a handful overseas too, but you might maybe 400, no, probably like 300 active members that would come to things a few times a year, at least a few times a year, but then maybe up to double that if you count ones that just come to like the big parties and like I don't know. I mentioned All City before, which is a Melbourne graffiti crew, and there was 6 or 7 of them that would come to parties and come to certain things, but I don't think they ever consider themselves Cave Clan as such, but they're kind of like affiliates. I sound like what's his name in the Warriors.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine there's a few people that probably called themselves affiliates that might not have been as well.
Oh, there's heaps. There's like to this day I still get, although now there's so many people exploring that I lose track. But back in the day where I was pretty like I was sending out a newsletter to everyone, which told people how, especially in Melbourne anyway, telling people how to, what we're exploring next. And so I knew, so I knew everyone knew what was going on. I had my finger on the pulse. And you get people saying, oh yeah, do you know Graham Jensen? I was like, no, not really. He used to call himself Bozo. And I was like, oh, yeah, he was in the Cave Clan for years, said he knew, blah, blah, blah.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him, yeah. There was a lot of that. He probably went in a drain one day. But nowadays, Cave Clan used to be in Australia, I don't know, even probably up until 2010, I guess. If you wanted to explore stuff, you could definitely, there was people doing it on their own, but the majority, and because we had this huge database of locations and that, people just joined the Cave Clan. You're either in the Cave Clan or the other explorers are the ones that have been kicked out, which it wasn't heaps, maybe 20 or 30 in 35 years, so maybe average one a year. But nowadays, it's just, you meet people. You can just meet people on Instagram. You can meet people on Reddit. You can meet people, on Facebook or whatever the new ones are, Telegram. The other one which I've forgotten. Yeah, there's another new to me anyway. But it's
a lot easier now, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's thousands of I've been shooting some videos and that in Melbourne and in the drains, and every time I go in on a sunny day, there's you used to always bump into graffitiists in certain drains, but now it's like I'm bumping into people exploring the drains, which is quite rare. But now there seems to be someone in the main drains, every time I go in. So I don't know if you saw the video I did where the little kids bashed me.
Yeah, I saw that. I had a good chuckle.
Yeah, but we were just sitting there and we were just setting up, and all these kids came down, and I sort of went up to them and I said, "Hey, this is gonna, I'm in my 50s. I'm not I may sound like I'm only 25, but anyway, I was sitting, and I go up to these guys, kids, and I say, this may sound a bit weird, but do you guys want to kick the shit out of me? And they've a couple of them sort of did that sort of laugh like you did, and but the others was like, yeah, why not? And then I explained it to them. I said, oh, we're shooting this video, and anyway, they were good. They went along with it. But then we went to the next tunnel and we bumped into this other guy. And I said, do you want to be in this video we're shooting? And he did a couple of parts in it.
Cool.
Yeah, it just seems to be. But so now, when I was saying those numbers, like 400 in the whole of Australia, because Adelaide was quite big and Brisbane was quite big. There was a branch. There was even members in Perth and Hobart, so they were spread out. The majority of them were in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and Adelaide. But now, like, and then there'd be like maybe 50 when there was say there was 400 active clan members, and there'd be like across Australia, probably not even 50, but there'd be a few dozen non-clan. Whereas now it's like there might be a few hundred cave clan people, but there'd be like shitloads more.
Yeah, a few thousand others.
Yeah, because it's just insane, and also graffitiists are almost what do you call it? The graffitiists that go into those certain areas, so they're still just piecing. They're more into the piecing than exploring, but they're also chucked into the urbex scene now. Like it seems to be anyway. Yeah, but
yeah, for sure. I mean,
shitloads.
I guess more and more nowadays, people are looking for a place to escape. So, I mean, myself personally, I love spending time even just down at the canals or anywhere just away. So, and even me, I run into people all the time, young and old, sort of floating around. I guess it's a lot more popular just to go and cruise around somewhere where you're not going to be bothered. And some of the scenery, as you would know, you can find is amazing.
Look, we're so lucky in Australia. I mean, I know shit probably still does go down, but like I just read this story about this guy a French Canadian guy who went into the US and he was exploring an abandoned theatre, and the owners came in and they actually shot at him, and they got him on the ground and they held the gun at his head, asking where his friends were, and this guy ended up, and they were kicking him in the ribs. He ended up with I'm going to get these figures wrong, but like $9,000 worth of medical expenses because he didn't have insurance, and then he's got both of them have got to go to court, and it's $10,000 each for a lawyer. Anyway, they've started a GoFundMe thing, but
whatever. True.
Yeah, they're like in Australia, like look, I don't know, I'm 197 centimeters tall and quite big. I suppose people tend to not bother me, but we're still lucky. Like you were saying, you can wander down the, and get away from it all and still be fairly safe most of the time. I find that the only people that panic are graffitiists, but I just say a few words to them so they know I'm not a cop, and like people that are actually in the middle of doing a piece.
And you run into them, they freak out a little bit.
Yeah, they freak out. You're sort of like, oh no, man, it's cool. I'm just walking by, and
If you told them who you were, their jaw might drop.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, well, even just the name Cave Clan, just for myself growing up doing graffiti, it was just always these sort of mythical figures.
Because we didn't bump into people as often back in the day, I'd always say, are you guys Cave Clan? And probably about a quarter of the time they'd say yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, cool to meet you. I just wish that I filmed all the shit that when we used to, because people are like, I wish I had took as many photos as you, but I actually didn't take that many photos. I probably only took photos 1 out of every 10 times I went and did stuff. Years where I didn't film anything. I didn't have a video camera.
I guess that's probably for the better in some ways. I mean, sometimes these days, especially, too many things can be put through a phone. Sometimes it's good for things just to be in the ethos of the past. You sort of mentioned graffiti artists a few times, and obviously that's a big interest of mine. You said that there was a few guys that that were writers that would come into the group or come into contact would be associated. Was there an emphasis on art at the beginning of Cave Clan? You know, maybe in the earlier years more so than there was later on.
I think the other way around. I think it's over the years it's gotten like, as far as like Cave Clan art, like us doing art. When I say us, I don't mean me, but I mean people with artistic ability. Yeah, like we set up. We have this big drain in Melbourne where we have our big parties, and we set up a gallery in there where we just did all these whitewashes, and Cave Clan people did all the paintings in them, but that was like later in the '90s, like late '90s. As far as back in the day, I don't think we had anyone with like none of us were. Gilligan, who's a guy in the Cave Clan, he tried to. He called himself. He started writing noodles, but he was shit. He's the first one, and then we had a few guys that were, but yeah, not until the late '90s, and then nowadays, I don't know if you're familiar with the Yellow Submarine, but
yeah, certainly the painting that's in the drain there.
Yeah. So originally, that's where we have the awards night, and we sort of I came up with the idea of doing a painting there that would be easy to fix, because so each year we have the awards night, we just fix up whatever was there, and the other side was the Clannies backdrop, which was done by Hugh Dunnett, which I don't know how well you know, but he's like pretty famous.
Yeah, I know of you, of course. Yeah, of course. I was looking at some of his stuff today. I was going to mention him actually.
Yeah, well, he's it's probably one of the oldest. That although it's been touched up, but that piece was done in 1990 or something. He's added a few things to beside it. He's made it bigger. He's added a few things. He added a big VB stubby, and no, he's pretty good. But he lives in Japan now. But yeah, you should try and get him on.
I'd love to. Yeah.
Yeah, I did mention it to him. I'll hassle him again. But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So with the Yellow Submarine, I was like, so this is just to explain how things have changed. I was like, oh yeah, the Yellow Submarine is easy. I could paint the Yellow Submarine. You just need a shitload of blue, yellow, and some odds and ends, and that's what we pretty much did. We just got extension ladder and painted, this like, I don't know, how high would it be, 10-meter wall blue, and then we did this shaded submarine, and the guy who did it had some idea, but then
yeah, I'm looking at it now. It's really good. I love it.
Well, but what you're seeing is one of the later incarnations of it. So originally it was just blue water, the Yellow Submarine.
Gotcha.
And then and the submarine had. I think it originally had the Teletubbies, whereas now it's got the Beatles in the windows.
Yeah, the one I'm looking at has the Teletubbies in the windows.
Oh, okay. So that might be an older one. Yeah, that might be an older one. I think now it has Beatles, unless I'm getting it the wrong way around. But anyway, then someone fixed it up. It got slashed a bit, which is to be expected. And anyway, we used to just touch it up every year. And but then these guys come along and said, "Oh, I can make it a bit better." And they put the characters in the windows, and they started doing more. And so every time someone would put their tag on there, we'd just touch it up and go over it each year. And for the awards night, and then someone got shits and tagged it all over it, and so some people came in and fixed it, and then they they added the giant octopus. So I don't know. There's the one that you're looking at. Has that got the giant octopus?
It's got something that looks like an octopus up the top. Yeah, coming out the top.
Oh no. So this is like now the latest one has an octopus grabbing it, like grabbing the submarine. It's giant. It's unreal. It's like really good. Well, compared to what I can do, that's awesome. It's like the person who did it was a proper artist.
A proper artist. Yeah, no, it's cool, man. There was a fire there at one point, wasn't there?
Yeah, it's fire. So it's currently damaged again. And although I'm not supposed to say, but I think someone's in the middle of fixing it as we speak. But it's meant to be a surprise. So
We've been talking a little bit on Instagram, obviously, and sort of lining up today. And you mentioned a guy called Bill, who was a graffiti writer who wrote Bass.
Bill Bates, yeah.
Can you run me through the story of how you and Bill wound up becoming friends?
When it was just Woody, Sloth, and I, there might have been a few more by then, but we used to go to cheap ass Tuesdays in the city to see like it was like half price movies. We'd go every second Tuesday, and I used to jump off the train. They'd keep going on the bus. I used to jump off the bus, and I'd sit on this station where the trains would take forever, and there was a giant chrome base piece, burner, whatever you guys call them.
Yeah, that's the correct terminology. Very good.
Yeah. Don't ask me to go anything else because that's about it.
No, it's all right.
He had good can control. There was no drips. And anyway, so I was sitting there and I had a marker in my pocket, and I thought, "Oh fuck, I'm bored." So I started writing on one of the letters. I wrote, "Oh, you're shit," whatever. I can't remember what it was. It was just basically insulting him, going, "Yeah, you're so toy," blah 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 blah. This is a long time ago, by the way. This is 90s, and actually it was like early 90s, and anyway, this went on, and then I a couple of weeks later after the movie, I'd go back and he's written something like fucking whatever. Fucking get fucked. I think that's what he said, something like that. And then I'd write, "You fucking get fucked." Anyway, that was basically the standard of the conversation. So anyway, I'd catch a train in on Fridays, and a bunch of us would meet up in the city. And so every Friday I'd get on the train, and this guy used to get on the trains, the same station. He looked a bit like Jesus. He had long wavy hair and a beard like Jesus. And I used to sort of look at him, and I noticed whenever he went past pieces, like on the train, he'd look out, and his head would follow them. And I thought, "Oh yeah, this guy's into graffiti." And I said to another guy in the Cave Clan, I said, "Do you know this bass guy?" And they said, "Yeah." I go, "Does he look like Jesus?" So I just thought there's a chance it was him. I don't know why, but and I go, "Yeah, fully, he looks like Jesus." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So so one day I'm on this railway station. It's one of those stations that's in the middle of the tracks, like you have to walk under an underpass to get up to the platform.
Yeah.
And I walked, instead of walking all the way past the friggin' station and then, you walk down the ramp and then all the way back up, I just used to cross the tracks. And as soon as I stood on the tracks, these guys came out of the waiting room and, they booked me. And it's still on my friggin' record, trespassing. But anyway, so they gave me a fine and I missed my train. And so I'm just down there thinking, assholes. And then I see this Jesus guy come walking along, and he goes to do the same thing I do. And I sort of cough, and he looks up, and I just shake my head like, "Don't do it." And he looks at me, and then he goes, "Oh," and then he walks around the other way, and he comes up, and he walks up, and then he saw the transit police, and he's like, "Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, cool, thanks." And so I got talking to him. That's how I met this guy, and who I had a suspicion was this bass guy. Anyway, so I started talking to him, and I met him like the next Friday when I was going in. He was going. He'd always go somewhere at the same time. I can't remember what it was, and we got talking, and I said, "Oh, you're into graffiti?" And he goes, "Oh, how do you know?" And I said, "Oh, because you keep looking at paintings, and I can see drops of paint on your shoes." And he's looking at me like, "Fuck, what's this?"
Dead giveaway.
Is this guy undercover or something?
Yeah.
And I said, "No, I'm always." I said, "Just with work." I said, "Sometimes I get paint on my shoes." And anyway, and he told me in the end, he told me he was bass. but I still didn't tell him who I was. And I said, I saw this shit at Rushall Station where this guy's having a go at you. And he's like, fuck, man, I don't know what's going on. These guys have got it in for me. This Duggo guy, he wants to fuck me up. And all this sort of shit. I'm going, oh, man, that's fucked. I said, look, I know some guys in Caveman. Do you want me to have a word to him and try and find out? He goes, oh, that'd be cool, man. That'd be cool. Anyway, the following Friday, so when where we were going on Fridays was this Hare Krishna restaurant in the city. And we used to all meet up there. And we'd just like bring photos of shit that's happened that we'd been doing before this is before social media was anything much. And we just done this. One of the guys in the group had done this photo shoot that ended up being in Good Weekend magazine. And he'd given me some copies of the photos, and there's like this gigantic A4 size photo of me in caveman overalls. And anyway, I'm talking to, we're on a train. I see Base, and I start talking to him about Cave Clan shit. And he's telling me the latest, like, because I'd gone back and written some more shit about him. I started writing
even after meeting him.
Yeah, even after meeting him, I was like, fucking, you don't even, you try and look like Jesus Christ or something, which is stupid because I was sort of giving away what he looks like. And he's saying that, he goes, now this cunt's like telling people what I look like. And anyway, he's going on, he goes, oh man, yeah, I need to sort it out. Can you speak to your contact? And as he's telling me all this shit, I just pull this photo out and turn it around and show him like me in the Cave Clan overalls, like this, in this one. He just looks and he stops mid-sentence and he's like, then he goes all like homeboy. He starts giving me the handshake and he's like, dude, you're totally right. Yeah, he's really good about it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and he basically, he's one of those guys like, he came to quite a few things. Like he was at all our parties. All those guys, they were a crew called RPB, which was, I think it was Rape, Pillage, Burn, some macho name like that. And they all came along to everything. I've got old party videos and videos from parties and everything there. But they came to heaps of stuff over a few years. And but then the sad ending was he was outside of McDonald's in Melbourne next to a pub, and the bouncer from the pub walked up to him and told him to fuck off. And he said, I'm waiting for my mates to get something from McDonald's. And the bouncer punched him in the head, and he fell and hit his head, and now he's wheelchair bound and can't really speak and
you're kidding,
all that sort of thing. Yeah, no, it's pretty shit. But he and the worst thing, not the worst thing was that happening to him, but the other thing that happened was the bouncer was American, and he just went back to America, like he didn't even have to go to court or anything.
He wasn't held accountable.
Yeah, maybe I think he was supposed to go, but I think he just skipped. And
fucking hell.
But I feel bad because I told Bill online. I said I'll get all this video footage of you from years ago, and then my thing that burns VHS to disc shat itself, and now it's just like I got these tapes, like I got 50 tapes. And I've just lost track of what's on. I used to have written down what, and his mate contacts me every now and again. He goes, oh, have you sent that footage to Base? And I'm like, fuck, man. Every time you mention it, I just get this massive guilt, and I go out and start going through boxes, but I just can't do it. I don't know. So next time, I need to just tell him I can't do it. But
you don't have the time.
Yeah. Oh, it's not that. It's it. I just think even if I had the time, I just don't know how. Even if once I find the tape, then I've got to convert it and blah, blah, blah.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't have the time, to do that. But shit happens. But it was a funny story, but sad ending.
Yeah, definitely, man. Well, respect to Bill. It is sad to hear that.
Yeah. Oh, he was a nice guy. Or he is a nice guy, yeah.
Yeah, it's happened. I mean, there was a period of time where that was happening quite a bit, people getting punched, and I'm sure it happens a lot still, but it's just really sad stuff.
Yeah. Well, now it seems to be more shunned, like more frowned upon, like it's and they changed it to coward punch and all that sort of thing, and hopefully it's died off. I don't know. I guess it's hard to tell with all the lockdowns and that. who knows what's going to happen once everyone's back on the street. We'll
Yeah,
remember.
totally, man.
We'll remember there's so many assholes because we've forgotten about that.
Yeah, that's right. Kind of, speaking about injuries and safety and things like that, I did want to ask, is there a misconception around the safety of exploring drains in Australia? I guess my question is exploring drains inherently dangerous to do?
There's definitely dangers, and I guess it's controlled. You have some control over it. I mean, the main things you'll hear from the authorities is, like, I don't know, if a petrol tanker crashed and the fuel ran down in a tunnel, it could explode if you were smoking, or the fumes could overcome, and you could fall into the water and drown, and or the obvious one, flash flooding and things like that. So, I mean, with the petrol tanker thing, you're probably much more likely to get hit by a bus. But with the flash flooding thing, you can be careful and just check the weather. And nowadays, it's easier than ever to. But having said that, you get those weird storms that form. Like they're not on the Bureau of Meteorology, but they sort of form over the water, and then suddenly, fuck, you got red and yellow cloud coming towards you. It's still, and I find one is people get complacent, and I've done it a few times in my 35 years of doing it. There's been a couple of near misses, but not only do people get complacent, but people now, there's just so many people doing it. There's so many young people. I mean, I'm a bit paranoid, thinking, shit, is there going to be like 10 guys in a drain that, get washed out, get killed, and what's going to happen then? Like there has been a few, you're probably familiar with the two graffitiists that got killed in the Sydney drain.
Yeah, 100%. I think it was around 2008. Yeah,
Yeah,
really
flaps and
sad.
yeah, really, really sad. But
How quick do they fill up? If you're in a drain, obviously, I'm not saying that you would have enough time to get out, but how quickly have you seen drains fill up while you're in them? Do they fill up? Obviously, they fill up quick enough to sort of prevent any escape.
so with like say in winter when it rains all day, that's not so bad. Like the drain would just go up, and it'd probably be over, knee deep, and you could probably walk out. I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying, but it's the summer storms, those where it just pisses down. And they say, oh, we got 6 weeks rain in 2 hours. It's that kind of shit that kills, that can really fuck you up. And generally, I don't know. Look, if you're up a tunnel, and it kind of depends. Like if you go in an inlet, like where the water's going into a tunnel,
Mm,
the water's coming from outside, so you don't hear shit. But if you
right.
go in at the outlet where the water's coming out of the tunnel, and the tunnel's a long tunnel, well, you'll hear the flood waters coming for quite a long time.
Right.
And generally, when they come, like say you're walking in a drain that's hardly got any water in it, you might get the soles of your feet wet, and then a wave will come, and you'll think, my God, this sounds so bad, like it's going to be full to the roof. We've sat outside and watched a few flood, and we've been in up a little bit when drains are flooding, and not risking our lives or anything, but and then it'll be like a shin high wave, which is still not good, and then another wave will come that'll be like a few minutes later. So I think most of the tunnels have all like tributaries, all side tunnels leading into them, and I think as they start flooding and the next tunnel starts pouring in, and anyway, that comes in waves. But I haven't hung around too long. But what happens is, like, you might have a tunnel that's 2 meters high, like a square tunnel, and sometimes they put pipes going across. They go from the left near the roof, and they go right through to the, it could be water, it could be whatever. They're just steel pipes, and they're 2 meters. They're however 2 or 3 meters up. They're just and you'll see like tennis balls squashed in the top of them, and thongs, and cans of Coke and that.
From the rising water.
Yeah, so if you're ever wondering, if you ever think, some people are like, oh, this drain's too big, it'll never flood. They fucking flood.
Yeah.
And like we put this back in the 90s. They used to have these like council benches, and they were concrete sides, and they'd have wooden wood going from across. Like you'd have 3 or 4 beams in the seat, and then 3 across the back, and it was just 2 big concrete. You used to see them everywhere back in the day, and they weighed a freaking ton. And we carried one of them up, and it was really heavy. 3 of us carried up to this spot in the drain that I mentioned earlier, the one where we used to hang out. And we went back like a week later, and it wasn't even a super bad storm, but it had rained, and we're like, oh, some bastards took our seat. And we thought, oh, maybe the water board came up and took it. But we found the seat outside the tunnel, about 100 metres up, just smashed up. This concrete, which was, it was thick shit. It was just smashed up. You could see all the metal Rio stuff in the middle of it. The wood, which, seriously, you couldn't, I don't know how, the wood was all smashed. It was in 2 parts. And these were like big, solid 4x2s. Seeing shit like that's like, oh, yeah, it's pretty full on.
It's powerful. I've been down the drains when even a little bit of, just ankle height, and it sweeps you off your feet almost.
Well, that's when you said, how does it get to the stage where you can't get out? Once you fall over, if you end up in the flow, even if it's like it might only be 80 centimeters deep or something, but a lot of the drains have angled, like even if they're flat bottom, they're still angled. So it's hard, it's slippery, and it's hard. And once you lose control, if you're coming up to a waterfall, or whatever it is, and then more waves of water come, and you end up, it's once you lose your footing. I don't know, but I've seen videos, like there's a drain in Melbourne. It's huge, and we've seen it flood before, and it floods into a big canal with really steep walls. And someone posted a video of they were diving. I can't remember exactly whether they had a surfboard and they had a rope attached to it, and they were diving into the flooding drain at the outlet, and then hanging onto the surfboard, whatever. But if they fell off it, I mean, they were young, they were all like teenagers. But if they fell off it and got washed into the canal, like they'd probably die. But people are doing shit. And a guy messaged me on during COVID, so in the last couple of years, and said, I went up God. God's this drain. It's called God. It stands for Great Oversized Drain. And he goes, I went up God, and we got washed out. And there's a massive waterfall there. And I go, we just got down the waterfall, and the wave came and washed us out of the tunnel into the creek. And luckily the 3 of us swam to the shore and climbed out. And this creek is literally like 100 metres from where it enters the Yarra River, which is the main river in Melbourne. And I said, when did this happen? And he said, today or yesterday. And I just quickly looked at the weather, and I was like, what the fuck were you doing? And they're like, oh, it's huge, like it's a massive drain. We didn't think it was going to flood that bad. And I was like, they're massive for a reason, like.
Yeah, they're designed to do that, aren't
they? Yeah. So that sort of scares me, gets me thinking, I'm just waiting for the shit to hit the fan, but hopefully it doesn't. But
I guess it is a worry now that so many people are sort of going into those places, eh?
Yeah. Like I know I'm just thinking about who are the people I'll probably go after if they, try and stop people doing it. But I mean, that's why one of the reasons we have an over 18 policy, and in our code of ethics, it mentions. Melbourne Water actually said to us that they're not as stressed about cave clan people because they know we understand the dangers and we're over 18, so it's more kids, and parents trying to sue them and all that sort of thing that they're more
concerned with. Yeah. Aside from water, which is sort of the obvious one, are there any other dangerous aspects? Do you often come across things that are dangerous, when you're in a drain?
I guess Well, that drain that I mentioned at those, which is even more dumb that they were up there. The big waterfall in God, the ladder is so at the top. They have a chain attached to the top of it that is attached to the drain wall, and that's basically so when you step off the ladder, you're still in a bit of a risky spot, and so you hold on to the chain. But all the bolts that hold the ladder in have come out, so all it's holding it is like the bottom two bolts, and this is like a 5 or 6 meter ladder. So you climb in this frigging ladder that's held by a couple of bolts down the bottom, and then as you get to the top, it's just this chain, one chain holding it, so it's wobbling all over the place, and so there's lots of the climbing waterfalls and things like that. If you're on your own, or even if you're with someone, at least if you're with someone and you fell, they'd be able to get help for you and make sure if you knock yourself out, that you don't land face down in the water, and which is why a lot of times I say, take someone with you.
Yeah, I have heard that sort of
Yeah,
a common thread to take someone with you.
yeah, and even when we do mines, some of the mines we do are pretty dodgy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, and you should really tell people where you're going and how to get there, and if you're not back by a certain time, that something's probably wrong. But which we don't do enough of that sort of with the drains and that. I think we're all just pretty confident, but we probably should. But I don't know. I very rarely do it on my own anyway.
I guess different spots would, different spots you'd need to approach differently. Somewhere where you can just walk in and hang out, I guess is a bit different to when you're crawling around in, something you can't even stand up in.
I do a thing every few years called the Drain Guide for Cave Clan members, and it's just this year, the one I'm working on now is like it's a 70-page booklet, and it just tells you all about the drains and has a list of all the drains. People would probably kill for it. But
I can imagine they would.
Yeah, but on one of the icons it has is it's got like two people, like two heads, sort of side by side, and that icon means we recommend you do it with someone else, because a lot of them you might need to get a heavy manhole off, or there's waterfalls. Mainly ones with big waterfalls. We always suggest that really you should do. You should always have someone with you.
Yeah, for sure, man.
But there are people that like doing it on their own, that only do it on their own.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that as well, because the activity itself, it's kind of, I can imagine a lot of people wouldn't want to be with anyone, but yeah, I guess it's not that safe.
It seems to attract, the hobby seems to attract, social misfits isn't the best term, but you know what I mean, like those people, there are a lot of people that like doing shit on their own. But as far as dangers goes, like abandoned buildings and factories and power stations and schools and all that, like to me they're, especially the older ones that are in decay. You just hear about people walking along and they'll just fall through the floor.
A lot more dangerous, yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, and a guy, there was one in, like, doesn't matter where it was, but I think it was Footscray in Melbourne. Yeah, and he just stepped in a puddle and there was a live wire touching the puddle and
oh fuck,
electrocuted. And luckily his friend who went up to help him realised if he touched him, he would have.
Yeah, shit, man.
But but drains are obviously super dangerous. But like I said, if you can alleviate, like, so the fumes and all that sort of thing, that's more a sewer thing. Like, there's generally, most stormwater drains have a lot of grills and gutter boxes and letting air in and out. There are sections where it gets a bit musty, or when you might walk through mud sections and you stir up that rotten egg gas, but the main thing is the flooding and then then just structures and things like that. But like one guy, I'm not going to say too much about this, but one guy was climbing into a drain in Melbourne, into a canal, and fell and knocked himself out and landed, drowned in the water. And that was
really,
that was just getting in the canal. But that's never been linked to urban exploring. He was going to explore the drain, but they just said that he was just some guy going into the canal. But
Well, I guess there is an element of, personal responsibility as well with the whole activity.
yeah, look, this guy was on ice and shit too, so
Yeah, that
um,
doesn't help.
that doesn't help, and that probably helped. I don't mean to, but it probably helped with keeping it away from our scene. In that, he probably just looked like some guy looking for a spot to do drugs or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. No, I understand what you're saying. There's been, I found your Instagram page that's sort of the obituaries for members of the community and people that are just urban explorers in general that have passed away and things like that. Have you dealt with, yourself personally? Has there been many people in the cave clan that have passed away exploring, or is that sort of a rare thing to happen?
I don't think anyone's died. Oh no, hang on. I've just got a list, which sounds a bit morbid, but I've got a list because I post on that Instagram page for anniversaries. I actually have a list of when everyone passed away. I'm just looking at it now.
Yeah, no, I think it shows a great deal of respect to have a page like that. I mean, as sad as it is, I guess it's good to sort of document people that have passed away and people that were involved in the scene.
Yeah, well, look, there's nothing. It's meant to be a positive thing, and I don't know. I've heard maybe one or two people say it was more, but I can't remember whether it was just me thinking they were going to say that. I can't. But I'm just looking. I don't. Yeah, so no one in the cave clan has died from exploring. The closest has probably been, which was a lady that joined the cave clan. Her partner didn't really want to join the cave clan, and so they'd explore together, and she'd come to cave clan stuff. And she's still, as far as I know, she's up in Queensland. But that's a pretty sad story. He died with her. Like, she survived and he died. She had to go out and, I mean, so yeah, I don't feel real comfortable talking about it, but
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
quite a personal thing, I guess. But
Yeah,
yeah, that was pretty fucked up, actually.
yeah,
Which, look, I spoke to her and said that one day I wanted to make a video, more just sort of making sure people don't get complacent. I've done a couple of videos like when it rains, no drains, showing drains flooding, but I was thinking of doing one where I spoke to people that know people that have died in drains, and I was going to, and she told me the story and said, yeah, you can use it just anonymously, but and the story was pretty fucked up. It actually put me off going in drains for a while, and I tried contacting the guy that was with Banish and Flaps when they died in the Fortress drain in Sydney to see if he, and I was being very, I wasn't being an arsehole. I was being very polite and understanding about what I was asking, but he didn't respond. But I could look. However, I can't even remember how I worked out a contact, but I sort of found something. But he may not have even seen it. But I didn't push it. I wasn't. But yeah, I've got a few sad stories that to use on this video if I ever get around to doing, including the one that I've spoken about a bit, the Brian kid that drowned in our local drain, the Northcote Golf Course one, when his mother rang me and asked me to if I could go and check the drain, check the drains and see if I could find, maybe he climbed up somewhere or whatever. But this is one of those, during one of those summer storms where they get like a week's rain in 3 hours. So I knew he wasn't. I knew he wasn't alive. But
yeah. I heard you tell that story. That was really sad. Just a young kid.
yeah, he was only. It was. I found his body the day before Christmas. He I think he went missing on December the 22nd, a long time ago now. But yeah, then I sort of I googled him once, just thought for that when I was doing the Instagram page. I thought I'll see if I can find anything else about him to post on it, and I found out that his father died not long after that, and his mother just packed up and went back to Scotland on her own.
Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah, shit story.
Yeah, man, for sure.
I need need to tell you some happy stories.
Have you had many close calls down below besides, when old mate almost dropped a couple of 100-kilo grill on your head? Have you had many other close calls?
Not a lot. I had as in life-threatening ones. I did have one where, which is on a video somewhere, on one of my When It Rains, No Drains videos, where we're in a drain, and this drain had lots of little waterfalls in it, and like there was quite a few ahead of us, and we were in between two big waterfalls, and it started raining. And we kind of knew that there was a chance of rain, but we were shooting this video and we thought hopefully we'd get in and get out, and we didn't, which was really dumb. And but every time this water went over one, so there's probably about a dozen of these little, when I say waterfalls, some of them would only be 50 centimeters high. They're more just drops and waterfalls. But we were in between two big waterfalls, like a few meters each. And so there was one upstream of us and one downstream of us. And I didn't want to get washed over a waterfall because then you get knocked out or whatever. So we got to a manhole and we were right near one of the waterfalls, and the water was just getting louder and louder. On the video, you can see earlier, it's just like, it literally looks like someone having a piss, the water going over the waterfall. It's like, that's how much water there is, hardly anything. And this, every time the water that was coming from upstream went over a waterfall, it just got a bit louder, a bit louder, a bit louder. So I climbed up, being the biggest of the three of us. I climbed up, and I knew this was a manhole that's hard to get off. It was a square one, and I knew it would probably be in the middle of a road. And I climbed up, and I was pretty safe where I was because I was at the top of this huge ladder. And unless the drain filled really, all the way up to the top, I'd probably be all right. The streets would almost be flooding by the time it got to me. And but the worst thing was, I was standing on top of this ladder and I was trying to use my back to lift it. So my face was facing down, and I could see the other two guys on the ladder below me, and their faces were just like pleading, like there was no, going in drains for us is generally fun, and we're always laughing and we're always joking, we're always talking shit. Whereas this was just seeing their face like that. I've never seen it. And the water got to the stage where we couldn't hear. We were screaming to each other so we could hear. Whereas, as I said before that, it was like a trickle of piss. It was just like, you'd hear crickets if there were crickets in there. And it got louder and louder. And then, and I was trying, and I was like bashing I had my torch, and I was hitting we do a thing called cracking the seal. Like sometimes when the manhole's blocked, if you got like a steel bar or something and you hit the corners of it, you can sort of crack the seal of it and then you can get it off. But I couldn't lift it. I tried a few times, and then I was bashing it with my torch, and this is a gigantic manhole you see in the middle of the road. And like I said, looking down, I was like, oh, fuck it, and I just gave it one almighty push, and it came off. And but it was so fucking heavy, and I pushed it with my back. And as I pushed it up, so it's leaning against my back, and it wants to go, the gravity is obviously trying to push it back down. I'm just using every inch of strength. And then right in front of me is just a Volvo coming towards me. And I was like, fuck, if I let this thing go back down, I won't have the energy to get it off. So I sort of just stayed there. But luckily I was at a stop sign. And so the car was slowing down anyway. And so, I pushed the manhole off, and the guys got out, and then I grabbed the video camera and filmed the water, and it's hard to tell when you see it, but compared to the little piss it was like 40 centimeters, 50 centimeters or so going over the waterfall, because we were at the waterfall where we got the manhole off. And the guys, when I'm filming them, they're just like, fuck, fuck, fuck. That's all they were saying over and over again.
Jesus. Lucky you didn't open it up into a moving car.
Yeah. Well, that would have been interesting, wouldn't it? But yeah. So we got out, and yeah, we were silly. But yeah. So that stuff like that doesn't happen much. I've had near misses with police, like where like in abandoned places or in places I shouldn't be hiding out, doing that kind of stuff that we all do at some stage. But
yeah, for sure.
yeah, no, as far as life-threatening stuff goes, well, there's a guy who used to be a graffitiist in Melbourne called Swipe. He lives on the Gold Coast now, but he I'm not sure if I told this story publicly. It's not a bad story, but I just don't think it might be an exclusive, but probably not, knowing me. There used to be a power station in Melbourne that was pretty cool. It was we just called it Melbourne Power Station, and it was basically, for a while no one knew about it. We just had this 2 blocks of Melbourne. It had like a theaterette, had hot showers. We just owned these 2 small city blocks. When I say owned, like we put a padlock on one of the gates, and
That would have been paradise to the Cave Clan.
It was awesome, mate. It was awesome. It was the best. And so one night we'd been out. I don't think we were planning on exploring, but we'd been to the pub for someone's birthday or something. And there was a few people there that hadn't been to the power station, but we hadn't met up to go exploring. Anyway, one guy had a torch, and we were like, had a few drinks. So we're like, yeah, we'll go show you the power station in the middle of the night when there's no light in there. So one block was like the offices, and it was huge. It was and that was where you could turn lights on and everything. But in the power station, which was the other block, there was no lighting. Anyway, so we're walking along this gangway, which is pretty high up. We're walking along this metal walkway. It's up on the wall, and it's but I don't know, 2 meters below you is another one, and then 2 meters below, so it's like multi-levels. And it's just access so they could get different levels of the power station. And we were walking on the top one, and there was 6 of us, and we only had 1 torch, and we were drunk. So yeah, what could go wrong?
Recipe for disaster.
And so we're walking along, and someone at the back wanted to see something. They got the torch. They were looking at something, and luckily, like Swipe, we used to call him Swiper Man because he was the most agile out of the lot of us. Like, if you had to climb up to get a window open or something, he'd be up there in 2 seconds. And we're walking along, and I was behind him, and then there was a few people behind me in a torch. So you just see flickers of the torch. The person who was holding the torch was shining it forward, so you could see it, but it wasn't very good. You could see roughly what was in front of you. But anyway, then suddenly Swipe just disappeared. I was like, fuck. And then I could hear Swipe going, fuck. And that's what people tend to say when they nearly die.
Yeah.
It's true. It's every time. Anyway, he's like, bring the torch forward. They bring the torch up, and Swipe. What had happened is the metal floor, so this metal walkway, it was just sheets of mesh sitting in on a lip as a walkway, and you had bars on the side, so but then the floor was just gone, and there was like old safety tape, the police tape, that type of stuff, the red and white tape, but it had been broken away, and he'd fallen, and he'd basically just grabbed hold of the lip that the piece of floor would sit in, and he just threw his hands out and grabbed it. If it was me, I would have just fallen.
And he grabbed it and hung on. Yeah.
So he had both his fingers just hanging onto this thing, and the torch came up, and we're like, oh shit! And I grabbed him and pulled him up, but it wasn't that stressful because it was like, oh well, there's another walkway 2 meters below us, and then Swipe goes, oh, I've dropped my shoe. My shoe came off. So he grabs a torch and he shines it down, expecting to see this shoe just sitting on the next walkway level down, 2 meters down. And there's no more walkways. All the other walkways had stopped. And it was like about 30 meters. His shoe was just this like speck of, and like basically.
Certain death.
Yeah. And the thing is, I can guarantee you, if it was me, I'd be dead. If I was in front of him, the only thing that might have saved me is I probably would have had my hands on the rungs. Like I'm a bit cautious like that, like the handrails.
As you were walking along, yeah.
Yeah. So I might have just went, oh shit, and so. But if I fell, I wouldn't have been able to get my hands out. And then the swipe was just saying, fuck, he's just walking along. And when we saw, and as everyone saw it, as everyone looked down, they just all started saying the same thing, fuck. Like, yeah. And that was dumb. And I don't think I've really done that sort of thing since then. That was years ago. That was like 20 years ago. I don't think, yeah, we'll drink, we'll meet up and have drinks in a drain, but it's like, on a nice day and a nice flat, safe drain. Like, yeah, we're not.
Yeah, I'm sure you put a lot of before thought into those types of things these days.
Yeah, and things like that with Swipe, although that was bloody close. You kind of need stuff like not to that extent, but you need stuff like that to happen every now and again to remind you that what you're doing. In that same power station, there was a story about there was a girl, nothing to do with Cave Clan, but she was a ward of the state. That's how they copped a bit of shit because she was, I don't know if she had a falling out or something with her boyfriend, and he'd gone to explore the power station, and she went looking for him on her own. Yeah, and she fell to her death. Not in the same spot, but yeah, she fell to her death, and I think when they got her out, she was still alive, but she died later. So yeah, so it's like that's more, and some of the guys, I guess, like doing pieces and that, they must risk, like in this power station, even they were getting up once they realised it was abandoned. People were piecing it on. Some of the shit they do is unreal. Like, walking out on these tiny ledges and
yeah, they take a lot of risks, those fellas, don't they?
Yeah. Like,
yeah, man.
I'm not built for that kind of shit.
No. Well, it's probably for the better.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about a fella named Big Ears. Do you know Big Ears?
Yeah, I know him really well.
Tell me a little bit about him. I saw, from the documentary that I found online on ABC, it sort of went into his sound exploration and his music, which was really interesting. When did he come into the group? Was he there in the early days?
Not super early, but yeah, a long time. Like he was at the non-Christmas drinks we had on Saturday. He was there.
Oh, cool.
He and this other guy, Pagan, who passed away from cancer, but they used to be in a band called Clunk, and they were just he describes it more as noise, but they were into that industrial noise sort of stuff. So, and they used to play at a couple of places in Melbourne, just small sort of, gigs, and they used to record sounds. They started recording sounds in wherever they could, and they saw this pipe, and they started recording in there, and then they didn't really take any notice, but they noticed Cave Clan written in there, and then he went to the one day they were sort of in this crappy little 2-meter pipe, and I'm like, what's that around the corner? And then there was like this massive 4-meter pipe, like big. Well, it's that one god, this gigantic, the one where the kid got washed out, but the ones that lived. Yeah, so they started going up there, and they climbed up this dodgy ladder, and then it's like it changes shape, and it's blue stone, and it's got all these like really sort of interesting shape changes and tunnel. And then I thought this is cool because they'd been just in this boring round concrete pipe. Yeah, so they contacted us, and with the goal of finding more tunnels like that to record in, and he started. Yeah, he's been in the Cave Clan for years, and he does gigs and he does some amazing stuff. He's got his own. I think I don't know his YouTube channel off the top of my head, but it's his real name, so I don't know how he stands on me giving that out. But he makes some amazing instruments.
Yeah, it's incredible what he does. It's really cool.
I'll send you. But he's still doing stuff. He's still making stuff now. I'll send you his YouTube page. He just does this little, it's like they get 50 views each. He just puts them up there. He doesn't really
doesn't promote it.
Much. Yeah, he doesn't promote it at all. But yeah, you'll see. He's pretty. He makes some pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, I'm assuming did he play sort of like you guys would have I guess you'd call them gigs down in the drains at certain points of the year, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, he did his own, the noise, which, when I say noise, like I'm trying to think of the bridge in Sydney. But, those gigantic bridges, he did one in Melbourne, and he got this wire, like I think it was like a piano wire or something. I don't know what it was. And he attached it to a wall, and it was like, I don't know, 100 meters long. And then he made it really tight. And then I'm not even sure what he was hitting it with, like a violin.
Whack it with a bit of steel or something, yeah.
Yeah, and all these different things he did it. And it sound like sound effects from like a Star Wars movie, like, choom, choom, choom. And and then he just create all these different, and when you go in, so a bridge room is, where a road, goes over something like a creek or a freeway or whatever. Sometimes they make them hollow, and you can get into them through manholes or doors, and they're hollow space. And he's got a few favourite ones where he'll do gigs, but he leaves most of the stuff there. So you walk into this concrete bridge room, and there'll be like metal, like it just looks like a torture, or someone's been tortured there.
Yeah. I guess once you figured it out, you could have a little play around yourself.
Yeah. So, but he's good. He look. I don't know if it's the type of thing, but he's always into talking about what he does. Like he loves discussing it. So I don't know. I don't know if he'd have whether there'd be a lot of demand for it, but
Oh,
I could
that doesn't
easily
matter.
get.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to him. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed stumbling across his stuff. I thought it was really cool. It's like, it just seemed to me like the type of sounds that would come with the Cave Clan. It just made total sense.
yeah. Well, yeah. Look, I've been umming and ahhing about I mean, mine would be pretty silly, but I've been umming and ahhing about doing a podcast, and there's a couple of guys like Big Ears. I've spoken to him about it because he's got all this like audio equipment that would blow you away, and there's another guy that would help me with the other side of it, but
I think that'd be great. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
but yeah. Look, I wouldn't be doing it on a. I'd probably just I don't know. I'm still thinking about it, but
Yeah, definitely.
I'll be better than Greg's chasing bandos.
I'll make sure he hears that.
Yeah, please.
Tell me about the clannies. That's a really sort of interesting aspect of the Cave Clan. When did that come about? How long after sort of the inception of the group did you start holding awards nights?
So basically, I could tell where it was because I was in my flat. I had this flat, so yeah, that was 1989. And what had happened was, like, we'd had a few people come up to our local drain and arrange to meet us, which is so much mucking around. Like, they'll come all the way, they'll write a date, and then they go home, and then they come back 2 weeks later, hoping we've seen it in the meantime. And we started to we met a few groups of guys, um, and I was thinking, oh shit, it's happening. Like people are starting to join. Because there's a couple of years in, well, 86, the start of 86 it started, and this is the start of 89. We'd already talked about stopping it, doing it because no one was getting into it. Anyway, these guys started joining, and I was sitting at my flat with this guy Cougar, who he's passed away in a motorbike accident. But I was sitting there and I was like, I think we need to make something to like a function thing, something some annual thing. We'd have the Cave Clan anniversary every Australia Day, but and we're sort of sitting there, and then on the TV an ad for the Logies came on, and we sort of looked at each other, and then just joking, we started sitting there making up awards for um, a Cave Clan Awards night, and I did an awards night at work, just taking a piss for the Christmas breakup, and I got these plastic Skittles and I painted them silver and whatever they were, like everyone would win if you won an award, and they were just stupid, I just made them up, and
Like
they said
you mean Skittle like a bowling pin?
bowling pin, yeah, like
Yeah,
a
yeah, gotcha.
plastic kids one,
Yeah, yeah.
and yeah, so we started talking about an awards night, and we planned this like I don't know. This was early, like January or something, and then we just went. Yep, we'll do it. I just contacted there was like 15 people in the group, 16 people in the group. I said, gave them a dodgy voting sheet. It finished with the gold clanny, like the gold logie. All the awards were just, I don't know, the early ones were just, yeah, best drain, funniest fall in a drain, funniest face in a photo, tallest clan man, shortest clan man. It was just all stupid. They were just all over the place. We just made them up. And yeah, and I think within about 2 weeks we had the night. And it was almost, I think it was meant to be a one-off. Um, the place got trashed at the end of the night. There was just shit everywhere. Um, then we had by the second year, we had like, I don't know, 40 or so people show up, and it was a bit more professional. Yeah,
That's
and it
still
just
quite a
kept,
lot to get into a drain. It seems like a lot of people.
oh, well, now, like I haven't done the last 4 or 5, but I used to pretty much do the whole thing. I'd do the voting. I'd keep it all anonymous, to make sure that no one knew who was winning. And then we started making a presentation video. We'd have it projected up on, the nominees are, and it got quite professional. We'd have a digital scoreboard and we'd do the gold. Instead of doing a gold count at the end of the night, we'd do it in like 3 or 4 parts during the night. That would be up on a scoreboard so you could see who was.
I mean, the way you're describing it sort of sounds normal, but when you picture what's happening here, you're in a drain, you've got 40 plus people with a projector on the concrete wall handing out awards. Like, it's bizarre.
I have that habit of talking about it like as if it's an everyday thing.
Well,
and
I
then
guess to you it is, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm still aware that. But you pointing it out, reminds me that. But we'd finish off with these fireworks nights, and they were just deadly. Can't believe there wasn't. If you look up Clanny's fireworks or whatever, you'll see a few. But some of them are fucking crazy. Like, there are these fireworks that aren't meant to be indoor, and even though it's a big chamber.
I don't think any fireworks are meant to be indoor.
No, but these ones were like fucking yeah. Anyway, but
so how many years? How many years have the Clannies been running?
The third. I think that's this year's coming. Oh, sorry. Well, next year's is going to be the 33rd.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, since '89, it's been on every year. Sydney has the Golden Torch Awards, which is the same thing, but they do it in Sydney. And normally everyone goes up, like, yeah, so heaps of people from Melbourne will go up to Sydney for that, and people come from all, like, it's the end of season, the Clannies. So yeah, so when you were saying get 40 people or whatever, but we just got to the stage where it was too big. There was like 300 people coming, and you couldn't. So many people were talking and that they were just drowning out it was just getting too big for the space.
Yeah, you lose control a little bit, don't
you? Yeah. So it was a bit of iron fisting going on.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I literally would. I'd just say we're not going any further until you shut up. And not everyone would shut up, but and we do the tribute every year. We do a minute silence for all the members that had passed away, and that's amazing. Like, because there's a few of them online, but they're not the most exciting videos. But the ones where it has the audio from the night, they'll do the tribute, and then we do the minute silence. And at first, people don't know what's going on; everyone's still talking, and then people will be like, "Shut up, show some respect," and you'll hear all this sort of shit. And then it gets to the stage where no one is talking in the place, and it's just this eerie silence. But the weirdest thing is you always hear there's crickets in there. And it gets that quiet that you can hear the crickets. And this is like 200 drunk people. And up on the screen it's just got, rest in peace or something. It's just dead quiet.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing, like, the feeling is like, it's always, and everyone always shuts up eventually. Like the first 30 seconds is getting everyone to shut up. But yeah, that's pretty cool. But the Clannies are like the end of drain season sort of thing. Then it's just before when it's starting to get a bit wet and all that. But it's awesome. But we had one where there was like 15 people from overseas, It was
Oh,
like
really?
45 people from around Australia, and
Wow.
yeah, it was the last Clannies. They did this tunnel in the city. It was in the news down here, and they got busted. It was just like the police busted them coming out of this tunnel, and it was like they just kept coming and coming and coming and coming and coming and coming, and they ended up letting them all go.
Yeah, I can imagine they would have been like, "What the fuck is going on here?"
And they were dressed in like suits, and
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
they were dressed up for it.
Or holding golden bowling pins.
Yeah, yeah. I think this was might have been the night before. They'd have like all these crazy events. Like we set up stuff like basically from Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We do stuff. Have heat just non-stop exploring, and taking all the people that are visiting from interstate and overseas. We take them and do all the best
Oh,
stuff.
cool.
And, it's a good time. It's good because the Clannies are good. I mean, they're different now again. Like everything's changed, but I don't. Yeah, I used to spend. That was my main. Yeah, one of the main things I did in the clan. I'd spend probably a couple of months a year working on it, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's you've devoted a lot of time to creating sort of more than just exploring around the group by the sounds of it. It sounds like you value sort of, aside from just walking down drains and being in cool places, you value sort of the people that are involved and the relationships that people might form in an unusual spot. It's really quite impressive, the community that's sort of come out of the whole thing.
It's amazing. Like it's sometimes people will talk about, oh, you must be proud of it, or this and that. And I don't think I'm more proud of like one Clanny's halfway through. We have a 1 hour or 45-minute break in the middle, like we had a wedding. A couple of members got married during the break, and another, which I mention this all the time, but like I just like, this is a good example of, there's been a few marriages and that, but
they got married in the drain.
Yeah, they got married in the drain.
Oh, wow, that's really cool.
But another cool one was Elfin, which as I said, I've mentioned this before quite a few times, but Elfin, she was from God, it's so long now, I'm starting to forget.
It gets hazy.
Elfin was from Adelaide, and Mr. India was from Sydney. This is another couple, and they met through the cave. Totally met through the cave clan, and now they're married with a couple of kids, living up on not the Gold Coast, but up in Queensland on up there. I don't know what it is, Tambourine Mountains or something. But
wow, that's really cool.
They got married in army bunkers in Sydney, in Middlehead or something.
Okay.
So that kind of stuff, and I talk about Prowler a bit. Prowler's like this guy in the cave clan, although his name sounds a bit dodgy, but he's like the nicest guy you'll ever meet. But I talk about him a bit, about how his wife had a heart attack and died, and how the whole group sort of got together and bought his kids, like a PlayStation and all these games, and helped Prowler out, with stuff. And Prowler's a good example of that side of the clan. Like he said once to me, he goes, people in the cave clan, some of them are more family than my actual family.
Yeah, I can imagine it is like a family, isn't it? And I guess exploring with other people, it's very much a bonding experience. Not to mention doing things like the clannies and having expos, and the amount of involvement that someone has, aside from just walking down a drain. It's really positive.
I think I said that maybe in that media, the ABC thing, that it's not. I don't think the cave clan's about going in drains. That sort of looks after itself. The thing that makes the cave clan different is, having this amazing group of people that work together, and that's one thing that seems to be changing. Like, there's fewer people putting their hand up to, like, I don't know if that's a sign of the times or whatever, but there's more people. There seems to be more people that are like, people are chucking rubbish in a drain, at a party or whatever, and they'll come up and complain to you, and you're like, well, you can pick them up, or you can go and have a word to them, or there's a lot of people telling you what's wrong but not doing anything to help. Whereas it used to be like, you'd say, "Oh, we're going to set up for the clannies," 25 people would show up to help. Whereas it got to the stage where there was like two guys showing up, and by the end of the night, they'd be stuffed. I mean, I moved down to Gippsland, so I pretty much stopped getting involved as much as I once was. But
Yeah. It does take a lot of initiative, I guess, to keep things like that going from members of the group, doesn't it?
yeah. Look. I hope it gets back to how it was, and I hope that people get to experience, like relationships and the good things, rather than just thinking of Cave Clan as somewhere they can go and explore drains with people.
Yeah.
Um,
Get an Instagram photo or something.
yeah, all that kind of shit.
For sure, man. Well, look, I won't hold you too much longer, man. I know it's getting late, but I wanted to ask you, how does your family and your friends outside of the Cave Clan feel about sort of your life in the Cave Clan? Does it ever come up?
Well, I God, probably for the first 10 or 15 years, I just didn't tell anyone. Even now, I'm pretty selective about who I tell. But then I sort of got to the age where I was like, oh, whatever. I think years ago, well, maybe the first time my family found out about it, as in my mother, and that was we were on a current affair. And we just did it. We just stupidly did an interview. I mean, it turned out all right. It was what you expected. They talked shit and all that, but I thought it was funny. But other people were like, they said we go in sewers, and I was like, who gives a shit? But anyway, my mother, I don't know how my mother, I didn't show my face in it or anything, but I think maybe one of my other brothers and my younger brother knew about it. I think someone told her, and she's like, oh my God, like, I hope your aunties didn't see it. She's like this old lady who was like, but yeah, most of them are pretty good with it. When I eventually came out, and I just put, I think I only use Facebook for sort of family stuff, but I put maybe it was as recently as when we did the ABC thing. I was sort of quite proud of it. I thought it came out quite well. And I sort of shared that with my family and all that. By then they knew what I was doing, and some of my brothers tried talking to me about it. My older brothers, before then. But when I shared that, like I had, like nieces and all that sort of thing, they were all like, "Oh wow," like they seemed pretty into it. But I'm not that sort of person that don't really want, I never thought of it. I don't think, oh, at least when I die, I've done something with my life. I don't really think about that. But although I probably think about it more talking to people like you, because you guys make me think more about that sort of side of it.
Yeah, for sure. No, I understand that definitely. I can imagine the amount of time that you put into it and just the nature of the hobby itself. I mean, it is so bizarre that I assume it would change the way that you sort of see the world and the way that you interact with people.
Um, it changes the way I see the world to some extent. Look, I'd probably keep them pretty separate. Like, say, for example, my immediate family, like my wife and two kids. Like, I've sort of talked. My older daughter, has an Il Drano shirt and a Cave Clan hat, and a few things like that. But she's not really getting into it, not yet. But and I guess because I've moved away from it all. Maybe that was happening before I had kids and that, where But no, look, to be honest, I probably don't. I probably, because it's been a part of my life, my whole adult life. I kind of not that this is what you're asking, but I guess when I started in '86, like 95% of my friends weren't in the Cave Clan. And then when it was at the peak, it probably got to the stage where 75% of my friends were in the Cave Clan. And now it's back, to just 25% or whatever. It's still a fair chunk, but some of my, friends that I'll probably be with, friends with forever. My good friends. I don't even see them as Cave Clan friends, but they were Cave Clan friends. And we still, when we do our grumpy old drainers or drain drongo things, I do these drain guides, which I was mentioning before, which is, basically 60-page book on all the drains in Melbourne, and tells you all this. That tells you whether you'll spill a beer in there, whether you can walk through the drain without spilling a beer. It just tells you a whole heap of unusual stuff. And but I always put a fake cover on it. And one of the issues had the cover that said the truth about prayer and fasting.
Right.
And the idea of the book is that people, like, I don't know, the cops go through your car, or someone in your family, and no one's going to bother looking at it. So they'd always be, a recent one was the truth about nuts and bolts.
Right.
So they're always really boring covers, and then you open the cover and it's got and then you open the cover and it's got the real cover. Anyway, Wes had just had his first child, and they had the midwife come in, and she sat down to talk to Wes about stuff. And as she sat down, she looked at on the coffee table was the truth about prayer and fasting, and she sort of looked at it, and she looked up at him, and she's like, "Oh, okay, well, this is So the breast milk will start coming," and Wes looks at the book and realizes she's thinking, "Oh, this guy's crazy." And he says, "Oh, no." He goes, "No, it's not about prayer and fasting." And he sort of opens up and he goes, "It's just a list of all the drains in Melbourne."
This guy really is crazy.
And you're like, "Oh, yeah, no. Oh, it's all good then." Yeah, so this guy really is crazy. But that was that whole thing of, it's to me, I probably just think of it, as if I'm normal.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely not normal, but I can understand how. I can see how you would have that view for sure. I mean, it's been a part of your life for so long. I don't know if I'd heard it from a previous interview or something, but I heard that you were thinking about writing a book. Is that right?
Yeah. I'm sort of, at the moment, I'm just tying up, because I was doing Il Drano and that took up a lot of time. I sort of wanted to do a few other zines, and I'm sort of working on them. I'm planning on getting them finished in 2022, and then I want to do a few things with videos and that, but a lot of it's just filing everything, getting everything, so I know where it all is, and then I've been writing down just sort of notes, reminders. I tend to remember that at this stage anyway. I tend to remember the stories, but sometimes I just need a few words. Oh yeah, that's right. So I've been writing down these reminder notes, and I contacted someone actually the guys that did, I can't even think what it was called, but anyway, these guys, all city guys, did a graffiti book years ago, and one of the guys goes, "Oh, I was speaking to the publisher and they'd be interested in doing something on the cave plan." That was years and years ago, and I was like, it's too soon. Anyway, I contacted them a couple of years ago, like just before coronavirus hit, and I just sent a random email, and which not normally with publishers they won't, you've got to go through all these hoops and that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just said, years ago, someone blah 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 blah, and and he said, well, the best thing to do is start writing some stories down and send them in. And then he sent me another message. I don't know if he looked into it a little bit more or something. He sent me another message, and he's much more positive. And I just said, look, I'm not planning on doing it today. I want to get everything sorted. I want to make it so that when I'm writing it, I can go, I want to look at that photo. It's here. I want to look at, that
right. Yeah. Do it properly.
Yeah. One of the reasons I redid those Il Dronos that I sent you, I redid most of them, reproduced most of them, not all of them, but some of them, not because I wanted to, they're just that they were crap. They really, I used to just basically make them overnight, and they were like, half the time the photocopiers were rat shit, and so I just to leave a set that ones that you could actually read.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying them, man. It's my bedtime reading at the moment. It's impressive. As I said on Instagram, I've made a zine, and even 2 issues is a nightmare to get done. So
Oh yeah,
to do
yeah.
100 is really impressive.
Look, it is a bit different because, like I said, because I'm so obsessed with or was so obsessed with Cave Clan. You know, that's what something that made people, like so many people and so many sort of cool members have said, you know, one of their favourite things was when Bill Drano would arrive in the letterbox and it was like, oh well, I'm not going to go and do whatever I was going to do. I'm going to sit there and read it and see what expos were coming up, and it was so. Yeah, like I'm guessing when you made your zine, you had to distribute them somehow, whereas I had a not a captive audience, but I had, you know, like all these people that wanted to get it, and so it was. I didn't have to go through all that shit of going to shops and which I did with. Yeah, I did that with other zines that I made, like non-clan ones.
Yeah, it's
And
tough.
it's a pain in the ass. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
worth the effort to make. Well, you don't make anything from it, so.
Yeah, man, for sure. Have you got many other sets available? I mean, should I tell people that are going to listen to this
Oh yeah.
that they can contact you and get some of the issues?
Yeah. No, I've still got like I think I've got 14 sets left. I made I think it was 35 sets, and I've sort of stopped. I just sort of thought with these, I'll just let them hang around for a while, and so rather than people, so that people that genuinely want them over time. But every now and again, I just do another plug and sell a couple more. But some people think they sound expensive, but I charge $165 plus postage, which in Australia is only $15. So it's 188. It's $180, but there is 100, and they're mostly in colour.
Yeah, no, I thought it was cheap. You always make a point of like I seem to notice that you address the sort of the costing of how much it is to make it and send it, things like that. But in my opinion, I mean, I would have paid. I find them valuable, so I'm surprised that anyone would think that's expensive.
The reason I always do that is just a habit because it's such a negative thing. If people think you're cashing in on the hobby,
Yeah,
uh,
right.
and I pretty much never do anything at a profit unless there's a reason that helps the client. Like I might sell something so that I can buy. I think I did something once and I made $300 profit, which is nothing but just yeah. And I use that to buy a printer to print the zine. It's things
It
like
all
that.
goes back in.
Like at the moment, I'm pre-selling these drain guides, and because I need
You need the
300.
funding to get it done, don't you?
Yeah, well, I need to buy, for starters, I need to buy $300 worth of stamps. Like I could just get the $300 out of my bank account, but I try and make sure all the money, I at least cover my costs.
Yeah, no, I understand for sure. Are you worried about those getting into the wrong hands?
I am, and for the reasons I was saying earlier, if something does go wrong and someone's got that, it's not hard to trace it back to me. But I am. I've sort of made it really put an emphasis on, this is for adult Cave Clan members. And, if you've got this and you're not an adult Cave Clan member.
Yeah, I mean, obviously safety is what you're referring to, but I was more talking about people that might blow up locations and put shit online and things like that. Does that concern you as well?
The only reason it doesn't concern me is because it's all what I'm doing is this what's the word, like bulky 80-page thing that someone would have on a Google map, and they just click on it and go, oh, that's where that drain is, and they'd have their notes on it. This is more it's just and I describe it in the introduction. It's just a hobby of mine. I'm surprised that people keep buying it, because most of the people that buy it, they've got access to all the locations anyway. So the locations are all out there. I always ask people not to digitize it, not to put it online. Although this edition, I've added QR codes to each thing, so it probably makes it
interesting.
Well, it makes it like more worth scanning, I guess, and digitizing it, because now people can just scan that. Whereas in the past it only had Malways, our street directory references,
right?
And then and the
I don't know
previous
if people
edition,
can read those anymore.
No, and then the previous edition had GPS coordinates, but they were just long typed out number. So you had to do that thing where you go 1, 2. Oh shit! I forgot to put the full stop in. But now that it's got QR codes, it'd be worth scanning, I guess. And geez, I presume QR codes last forever and don't change. I never thought about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I hope they go away. I'm sick of using them to go to the shops.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, as in the ones that I've created for each drain.
Yeah,
I hope
for
it
sure.
doesn't get to the stage where you scan it and it's like, no, this just scans and sends you to Google Maps.
Yeah, right. Interesting.
I'm sure.
Oh, good job, man.
Yeah, it's took a lot of work, a lot of fucking around, but
Yeah, I can imagine.
yeah, like there's 150 drains, so I had to create 150 QR for codes, and luckily someone gave me a hand for a chunk of it.
Yeah. Well, look, man, I don't want to keep you too much longer. It's just hit 11 o'clock, so I want to I know you don't consider yourself as sort of figurehead character or Lord of all drains or anything like that, but I have to say what you began way back when, in the mid 80s and led to the story of the Cave Clan is, it's really impressive, and I think it's something you can be proud of. So, I've got a massive amount of respect for your dedication and just, your interest in the whole thing. I think it's beautiful, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Thank you for listening to the Lead Poison Podcast.
Talking to me? Oh yeah? Huh? Okay.
Huh?